My name's Quinton. I'm an evangelist for Salesforce. You guys probably know Salesforce as the CRM provider. We do a bunch of other things, and I'm going to give you a really quick overview with that. I'm joined with Jessup, who's decided to sit in the crowd and make it look like there's more people here. But he'll come up later and talk about some of the things that he's doing to connect kind of the payment gateways and things like that with Force.com platform. But I'm going to kind of jump in and go pretty quickly. We have a little short on time and a decent amount of material, but again, feel free to derail me as much as you like. It's pretty simple and easy. So quick agenda on what we're going to go through. As I said, I'm going to talk a bit about what we call the Force.com platform. And if you're not familiar with anything apart from Salesforce and CRM, that might be a little bit of an eye-opener. Most people think of us just as a CRM provider, but we have a platform as a service offering underneath it. I'm going to skip a little bit of the multi-tenancy discussion. We'll talk about, just in general, where the cloud is and cloud computing, and a lot of people think of it as infrastructure as a service. I'll hopefully add a little bit more flavor on that, and then I'm going to pass it over to John to talk a bit more about kind of the PayPal X toolkit for integrating between PayPal and Force.com and so on and so forth. But for now, I'm going to skip past this really quickly, but in general, Salesforce is a publicly traded company. So anything that we do talk about now, don't base your buying decisions on, although there's nothing kind of real proprietary that we're going to talk about here or kind of future statements, but being a public company, I have to show you that. And if you guys know how many words are on there, then I would give you a prize, but then you'll just be as sad as me, because I do know. So has anybody heard of Force.com as a platform before or developed anything? So, okay. The good thing is 50% of the audience does. So that was two hands. But in essence, a lot of people know us as kind of the market leader in CRM space and sales and service and support and those sort of things. But a lot of what's driven behind all of this is the innovation on our platform. And the platform is something we built and developed to be able to not just build our apps, but let you and everybody else build their apps. Build any kind of custom app that they want. So you've probably heard a lot about Chatter recently, which has been a lot of the news on social networking inside the enterprise. But VM Force is an approach that we're taking to bring kind of the cloud to Java developers as well. And John and I were talking about some interesting use cases on that one before, especially in the e-commerce space with listeners and being able to publish transactions through there. But where we really came from was our CEO, Mark Benioff, was from Oracle a long time ago. And he found, and a lot of us have come from the same areas. I came from BEA before the Oracle acquisition and things like that, that we just found that the traditional approaches for software development and infrastructure were just too complex and too complicated and just too expensive. So what we did was we moved all of that logic and information to the cloud. And by doing that, we built our first kind of CRM applications, but then we built a platform and made that available to everybody else. That's when I talk about the Force.com platform. So some of the things that we're seeing that people are building and developing on the platform in particular are some type of replacement app to a legacy system like Lotus, or there's a very big demand for departmental apps, procurement, invoicing, those sort of things that can kind of come out of a general need within a department, but then kind of grow bigger and bigger to more of that kind of business process app. And then finally, this is probably where we'll spend a bit more time, especially with John, talking about kind of those data-driven websites. So we have a public-facing website that can interact with the exact same data from the same data source on a private site. So for instance, if I'm managing campaigns or merchandise or anything like that, all of those can be driven off the same data instead of kind of having to push data between two systems. So what does all of that mean? When we look at our environment and our application, that platform as a service, we always start with the infrastructure layer. So very importantly, we have a multi-tenant kernel. And if you're not kind of in the know, multi-tenancy is a big word, but what it really means is that we have the ability to kind of slice off parts of the application or the stack, so you guys get a piece of it. It's not an individual piece, but for instance, if we're updating or upgrading our software, everybody gets the advantage of not just that updatability, but also the scalability and the elasticity involved in it. So it's that kind of multi-tenanted shared environment. And the important thing is that keeps the cost down because we don't have thousands and thousands of servers. All of our 85,000 customers, as an example, run off 1,500 Dell servers. So it's pretty small and super scalable. And in particular, We do something like 350 million API transactions a day, and those aren't via the web browser. So I'm talking about sort of integration transactions, payment gateways, all those sort of things. So we have to be able to scale from that infrastructure level down and then kind of move up the stack. So when we talk about that kind of scalability, we have data centers around the world. Even now, this is out of date. We've just built some new ones. Another one in Singapore just opened. There's going to be 2 more opened inside the US, and they're looking at London and Canada as well. So the whole point is you need to be able to trust Salesforce, excuse me, is going to be there and be available, and it's going to be highly performant regardless of wherever you are. So now once we start kind of moving past that whole kind of infrastructure area, we start looking at the development platform. So how do I build native and custom apps on the platform? So we provide a number of tools to do it. There's an IDE if you guys like kind of the Eclipse-based type IDEs to do development, but we can also do a lot of things through the browser. And what we find more and more is you can do things declaratively on the platform. You can point and click and create workflows. You can even create securities and rules and profiles, and UI can be automatically generated, but we give you the tools to do a lot more as well if you want to kind of go down under the hood. So that development platform sits on top of and leverages that infrastructure that we were talking about just before. So when we talk about that kind of development platform, I wanted to list a few of them up here specifically that we can talk about. So I mentioned before about kind of the database and multi-tenant kernel. We have a multi-tenant relational database. You'll never see the tables or objects that are underneath it, but what you do is you start to interact with the data in kind of an object relational model. So I have lookups or a master detail and things, and I can model my application and my domain model very, very quickly. I obviously have the ability to interact and connect with any other system, primarily via the Web Services API. We have SOAP. We've just come out with REST. We can kind of connect with just about any system, including on-premise through, excuse me, through partner providers and anything else that you really need. But where we find some of the big benefits and value is that whole user administration and security piece. You don't want to have to build all of that roles and profiles and security, especially when we're talking about payments and payment gateways, because that's pretty fundamental to know who that person is and how you process it. Just have to grab a drink, excuse me. But even more so, any site on the web now is a global business. So I might be selling things to somebody in China, to India, to Australia, wherever it happens to be, and I need to have that kind of multi-language, multi-currency support built in. And even coming from Australia, I need to convert it from like that American English, so I haven't quite worked that out. But also, everyone's moving mobile, so I have the multi-device capabilities. I can choose kind of what data and data sets that I push out onto my mobile device, and that's fully secure based on the security and the roles inside the platform as well. I know I'm moving kind of pretty fast, but I want to make sure that I give John plenty of time to talk about his things as well. But what we have found is that roughly about 5 times faster we can build things on the platform, because you don't have to spend time building that infrastructure and getting your libraries and jar files and all those sort of things up and going. And as I said before, you can do more and more on clicks versus code. But what we do is we make a lot of things simple by doing it via clicks, but if you really need code, you can just jump in and you can even code via the web browser as well. So we'll see some of those interfaces in a little bit too. So this is where I kind of wanted to talk a little bit more about under the covers a little bit. Everything on our platform is based on a kind of a metadata language. So you can describe everything and change anything in a number of different ways. In particular, if I've set up let's say a validation rule or a business process through the browser, that will be enforced no matter which way I come through. If I go through the API, the same rule is going to be enforced. I don't have to kind of keep 2 different processes and manage it that way. And in particular, when I start designing my workflows and approvals, so typical kind of e-commerce scenario, if it's a gold customer versus a silver customer, excuse me, I can do that via the visual, excuse me. I can do that via the visual process designer. I'm losing my voice, unfortunately. So I'm going to skip through this because I'm kind of losing my voice very quickly here. But at the very top and heart of all of this is the collaboration piece. So what we can now do with Chatter is your records and your data and your information can start talking to you. So instead of like Facebook where I follow a friend, let's say I follow a piece of merchandise or inventory that tells me, excuse me, that tells me when it's time to reorder versus me having to follow it, as an example. So final slide, hopefully my voice will kind of stay with me. But when you're looking at the platform in particular, these are the 4 boxes that I like to think of in terms of how you design and develop and build your applications. And I'm going to let you read that because I'm losing my voice, and I'm going to hand it over to John here. So. If you're a customer of Salesforce, we charge via subscription. But then if you're, say, an ISV partner or something, we have a few different models you might do, like an OEM license and kind of pay a % of revenue or anything. They're pretty creative in how they work those things out. So.
All right, hey guys. So my name's John. Let me go back. I'm the founder and CEO of Cloud Conversion, and we actually build all of our applications on the Force.com platform. And there's a lot of intricacies of building on the Force.com platform, and so I'm just going to go through some of those. But our main focus is basically building e-commerce related applications. We actually won the eBay Star Developer Award this year for our integration between Salesforce.com and eBay. We have a lot of very large online retailers using our products and Salesforce.com to provide customer service and streamline key business processes. And so we'll go through a couple things, then you can answer some questions. What did I just do? There we go. All right, so basically what I'm going to talk about is the Force.com IDE. Leveraging there's a really cool toolkit that lets you get up and running really quickly. There's the Salesforce.com App Exchange, kind of like the Apple App Store. Opportunities for you guys, developers, things to watch, next steps, and then I'll do a couple little demos. So this is basically an Eclipse IDE, and Force.com has a plugin that you can actually install. And this is actually the Salesforce PayPal toolkit. And so you can actually see here, I mean, it looks like Java code, but it's actually called Apex. It's very, very similar. If you know Java, the transition to Apex is super easy. But what's really amazing about coding in this, basically if I make a change here, it makes a web service call back to Salesforce, and my application gets changed. But what I can actually do is I can actually package all of these applications up, and I can install them into either an existing Salesforce organization. So like somebody like Dell who has 40,000 seats of Salesforce, I could actually build an application that Dell might want to use. Or somebody like Japan Post has 100,000 seats, whereas my customers have like 5 seats. So it'll scale with their business. And so you can actually download this Force.com IDE. You can get a free developer account. You can install the PayPal toolkit. And I bet within like a couple hours, you could have a working application that does something cool. So the PayPal X toolkit actually was launched, officially in February, I think. It's really amazing. It does all the adaptive payments APIs. So you can send money, you can receive money, you can actually do all the billing agreements. You can set up recurring payments, and then there's also you can also create new PayPal accounts with that API. And you can also just go to developer.force.com/PayPal toolkit, and you can actually just download it for free. So leveraging the PayPal toolkit, like I just said, adaptive payments, and then there's the accounts APIs. Really quick and easy installation into like a free Force.com developer account. What I really like about Force.com is it really allows you to focus on the application. So actually solving a business problem or a need. And so I think Force.com is great for entrepreneurs that aren't super technical, because you can actually build an application. Everyone in this room could build an application without knowing how to code anything. You can actually build the data model, like point and click. With the Force.com toolkit, you would need to do a little bit of coding, but it's not rocket science. These things, it will easily scale to thousands of users. Like we have a couple hundred customers, and I sleep really good at night because I know my servers aren't going to crash, whereas you can't really say the same for other apps out there. There's something called Force.com Sites, which actually allows you to build public access websites on top of the Force.com platform. I honestly think that Salesforce.com or Force.com is mashed up with other things like PayPal and eBay and Facebook. There's all these different toolkits, Amazon EC2, S3. So you can actually mix and match the right technologies. And I'll go into this a little bit. And then I think there's really endless opportunities to build enterprise payment applications. It's really an untouched market, and especially with a new business payments announcement today, 50 cents for the ability to, I actually run my entire business on top of Salesforce. So when somebody buys our software, I send them an invoice out of Salesforce, and with the new business payments, I'm going to pay 50 cents for a $5,000 invoice, right? And so I want to get paid right away. You don't want to wait 2 weeks for a check to never show up, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So the Force.com App Exchange is actually a really amazing opportunity as well. Once you build your application and package it up, you can actually list it on the App Exchange for free. Actually, no, sorry, it's a $300 security review fee. So they'll actually review your application, make sure that it doesn't have any security loopholes. Make sure there's no cross-site scripting and that kind of thing. But once you're on there, we probably get 20 to 30 leads a week for our products, just because they're on the App Exchange. And usually, we listed something on the App Exchange a month ago, and we're already #1 on Google for that application. So the SEO around the App Exchange, and Salesforce has 83,000 customers, and so their customers are always looking for things. You can come on the App Exchange and see what different applications are on there. But if you go on there, you'll see our product, which we call Ecom Source. We also built. There's a company called Channel Advisor that does eBay, Amazon, a lot of PayPal. We also just built a Magento integration. So if you type in Magento Salesforce in Google, you'll see Cloud Gento on there. Out in the partner pavilion, there's Zuora Z-Force, and I'll talk about a little bit about that in a sec. Vertical response email marketing. A lot of our clients use vertical response for email. And then there's ERP systems. There's a lot of payment related, but they're really they're real generic. And so I think there's an opportunity if you have like a niche that maybe is not being served. There's an opportunity to build something really quickly and deploy it to thousands of people if you want it, if they want your app. So one of the other cool things, and I think Zuora is, and I would definitely go talk to those guys, and they have something called Z-Force. And actually, when I was putting this slide together, people asked me well, why would somebody want to use Zuora? Because we're at a PayPal conference. What you can actually do with Zuora is, so there's two sides of the payment equation, right? So I could build an application and I could sell it. So it could be the coolest PayPal invoicing API or application for Salesforce.com, and that would actually have a B2C or a B2B PayPal integration. But I could actually use Zuora's billing platform to get paid for my application, right? So I basically build an application, and it has integrations with eBay and PayPal. But obviously, I want to get paid for providing that application. So I can actually use Zuora to handle the payment access integration to get the developers paid, which obviously is an important thing if you're selling your product. So some opportunities that I think of, and this is obviously not an extensive list. You can leverage the PayPal X toolkit for Force.com, and this really, this gets you pretty far down the road. You can build new payment integrations into Salesforce CRM, and this is a really important point. So there's two types of Salesforce apps. There's an OEM app, so you can actually OEM the Salesforce platform, and so that's actually what we're doing now with our products. So you don't actually have to sign up for a Salesforce.com license to use our application. We're actually reselling the Force.com platform, and so our customers pay us $100 per user per month, and we just turn around and pay Salesforce for those licenses. So it's just an OEM model. But a lot of Salesforce partners, they want to figure out a product that Dell might want, and they want to sell it into the Salesforce install base, and that's also a good way to go. But you can actually build these apps to go both ways. So I could actually build an app that works, with Salesforce CRM or independent of Salesforce CRM on the Force.com embedded edition license. So that's just an important like sort of point. With Chatter, you can actually build social e-commerce apps, which I think there's a lot of opportunity around that. eBay, we've actually built a Force.com app inside of eBay, and we run our, like I say, we run our entire business on Salesforce. So all our customer service, all our sales and marketing, and then we actually are working on embedding our Salesforce account inside of eBay. And I literally think it's going to generate like 300 to 400 leads a week, just because we have a good idea, and it'll probably take us a week to build. And then what I would also do is Dreamforce is in December, is actually in the same building, and also Moscone North and South. And I would come here and just talk to Salesforce customers and be like, what are you doing with payments? How do you handle your billing? People will tell you exactly what their problems are, and that's obviously a good way to approach solving them. So things to watch. Chatter, they're putting a lot of investment. Quinton actually is doing a lot of stuff with VMforce, and so you can actually build Java apps using VMware on the Force.com platform. So you're leveraging all that infrastructure, like all the analytics, all the workflow and approvals, but you're actually able to. So we're gonna use VMforce to build some parts of our application that need to be written in Java. The PayPal Toolkit, like I just mentioned, and then Dreamforce. I'm sure they've got some really big announcements, and I'm excited for that. And there's also Quinton didn't mention, but there's a Cloud Stock, which is like a developer conference right before Dreamforce. I think it's the 6th. Is that right? Yeah, December 6th. So next steps, sign up for a developer account at x.com for PayPal. You can sign up for a free eBay developer account if you're interested in leveraging the eBay opportunity. You can sign up for a free Force.com developer account at developer.force. Obviously, all three have developer forums. You can go on there. You can post ideas or whatever. And then, like I said, Dreamforce, the 6th to the 9th. And feel free to email me, john@cloudconversion.com, if you have any questions or ideas. And then, so last but not least, I'm just going to show you a couple of demos of how we actually use Salesforce. So this is actually one of the recent integrations we built. Is we built an integration to handle all PayPal IPNs. So payment notifications come in, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, but in PayPal you can only have one IPN. So we've actually built, literally in like an hour, we built an PayPal IPN splitter. So if like a lot of our clients actually use multiple e-commerce platforms, so they'll use like Magento, and they'll use like Yahoo, and they'll use like Channel-Advisor or something like that, and all those require you to set up your IPN to point to their system. And so basically, and if you don't do that, the orders won't move from pending to new because you won't know that somebody paid. And so what we did is there's a payment notifications tab, and you can actually set up as many of these. It basically routes the IPNs to wherever you want to go. So this is basically what an IPN looks like. There's a transaction ID. There's the payment type. There's the payment status. There's the customers. I mean, there's actually a lot of data in here about about the customer and about the payment, the PayPal fees. And what you can basically do is you can go to the PayPal IPN settings. So here's like a Magento like IPN for, so an IPN comes in from PayPal, and we can redirect it to Magento and to Channel-Advisor. You can also set up rules in terms of where you want things to go. So we actually built this for some customers that needed this. And then the other thing too here, so we've actually built like an entire e-commerce data model on top of Salesforce. So Salesforce doesn't normally come with like orders, inventory, payment information. So we just added that to the platform. And it's very easy to do. So basically, you can see here, you can have like all these fields that we just defined, but we've got all the payment information here. So we've got the PayPal transaction ID, payment status, and then we've got all the order lines. And so basically, the first integration with the PayPal that we built was this refund order capability. So we have some clients that ship 1,000 items a day out of their warehouse, and they get like 6 to 7% return rate. So that's like 60 to 70 returns per day. And most platforms don't really allow you to do bulk refunding. And they also don't really track, they don't really allow you to say, this only this person's allowed to do refunding. So the security levels and the assigning who can do what. So we actually built this, and this actually works for bulk refunding. So our customers can come into their Salesforce account and choose all 70 orders that need to be refunded. They can actually apply our restocking fee. They can choose the adjustment reasons. They can do partial refunds. And so before it would take them like 4 hours to refund like 70 items. Now they can do it in like 2 minutes. And when we built this and gave it to all our customers, they were like, wow, this is amazing because you just saved us 4 hours of work. And you can also add transaction flags, and you can do memos and like transaction notes when you do a refund. And then we also track like how much money was refunded, what were all the reasons for the refund, who did the refunds, and then you can also on the customer record you can see all the refund information. So this actually uses the standard PayPal refund API, which is not part of the toolkit. But we also added, if I click into a customer, I'll just click on my name here. If I wanted to, I can actually request money, and I can also send money via PayPal. So I can say how much money, I'll send $100. And I can actually pay somebody. And this is actually making web service calls to the PayPal sandbox. Oh, I guess I have to log into the sandbox first. I don't know if I know my password. But basically, so what a lot of our customers, we have a lot of like cell phone recyclers, and so they'll receive like thousands of phones in the front door every day. And so if you go into like an AT&T store, you'll see a little sign there that says recycle cell phone, and the company is called FlipSwap. FlipSwap uses Salesforce to manage all their B2B and all their B2C. And so they basically if you send your phone into them to recycle it, they'll actually pay you whatever fair market value is for whatever phone you have, and they can actually send the money from their Salesforce account and track how much money is being sent and who's sending money. And then the other thing too is they can track. Okay, I think we're done here, but they can basically track how much money is being sent, and the next step is basically sort of the profit around all the phones that are coming in and all the phones that are going out. So any questions or ideas? No? Makes sense? Okay. Yeah, I think it's a really, I guess we have 15 minutes for questions, but if nobody has questions, I can tell you why I think you should be looking at this. Yeah, sure.
Is cloud conversion something that a small business can use?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
So we really focus on online retailers.
Okay.
My girlfriend sells designer fashion online. Huge. She does 30,000 to 40,000 a month, and I think that's a pretty small business. It's like a one man operation. She uses Salesforce to manage all her B2B, all her B2C, all her PayPal accounts integrated with Salesforce. So she manages where she gets all the inventory, and then all her orders from Magento and Channel Advisor for eBay and Amazon come in.
Without disclosing her name or business, does she work with drop shippers as well? Is any of her business a drop shipping model?
So she doesn't. She has everything in house, but we have a lot of clients that drop ship.
Okay.
And I think that Salesforce is a really amazing opportunity for drop shippers because there's a Salesforce workflow engine. Let me actually just show you how this works. So we have a client. He actually has 20 people in the Philippines that manage all his drop shipping. And I keep telling him that he's going to be able to streamline a lot of that process. So an order comes in, and he needs to automatically forward that order to the drop shipper that needs to take care of the order. Same thing with returns. So a return comes in for that order. Depending on who the drop shipper is, he needs to tell that drop shipper that this item was returned. And then a lot of the times, the return instructions for drop shipped orders actually go back to the drop shipper and not to the retailer. But basically, everything for Salesforce is under setup here. And then if I click on create, there's workflow and approvals, and then workflow rules. I can actually create, so here's notify returned. So there's a workflow rule on an order. So if I set the order status to returned, I can actually do some really powerful things here. So you can actually do time-based workflow. So a lot of our clients actually automate using the workflow engine. I mean, and this is something like if you start a software company, you're not going to build a workflow engine. I mean, it would take you a year to build a workflow engine as powerful as this. Basically, you can set up time-dependent workflow. So you could say like 5 days after the item's been shipped, send the customer an email, just say, just want to make sure that you receive the item, write a review, we hope you're happy. And then you can also do immediate workflow actions. So I can add a workflow action, and so I can create a task. I can do an email alert either to the dropshipper, to me, to like somebody in my organization, or I can do an automated email alert to the customer. You can also update fields. So I could update the owner of the field, Actually, so one of our customers, when orders come in, he actually assigns the orders out to people to manage. So you can actually update based on whatever criteria you want. You could say, if they paid with PayPal and they want it shipped UPS, and the order amount was more than $1,000, assign it to this guy, right? And so I think they're actually improving their upsell when they do that. You can also do outbound messages. So if you have like a backend system, like an accounting system, you can actually, when an event happens in Salesforce, you can actually forward that to your backend systems. Yep.
To get this type of setup, you would need to, sort of what's the process? Because we're talking about Salesforce.com, we're talking about Force.com, and we're talking about cloud conversion. So what exactly would you have to?
Yeah. So, cloud conversion, we don't own any servers or databases. We run all of our software on the Force.com platform.
Okay.
You get all that workflow either with Salesforce CRM or with Force.com, and you also get the reporting and the dashboards. So, you can pretty much do anything you want to do. Like, I love when my customers call me and they're like, hey, we want to do this, this, and this, and this. And I'm like, all right, well, to do this and this, you got to just do this. If you want to do that, like, do this over here. It's not like, I've dealt with a lot of software companies, and you're limited by whatever the engineer thinks somebody might use the application for, or the reports that he thinks the customers might need. What's great about Salesforce, you can customize it to your business, and you can, if you can think of it, you can probably do it.
For Salesforce.com. Okay, gotcha. Got it. Okay. And then cloud conversion is?
We just leverage the Salesforce platform. The way that I explain it is we built a little B2C layer on top of Salesforce.
Gotcha.
So typically, most Salesforce.com customers are, B2B businesses, whereas all of our customers are B2C. They have a little part of B2B. We're actually in the semifinals of the Salesforce App Quest, and some of the other finalists in the App Quest and it's a $100,000 prize for whoever can build the coolest apps on the Force.com platform. But there's one guy that built a wine management application. So he basically, built an application to help the spirits industry streamline their business. So it's usually people that build on the Force.com platform. There's a lot of healthcare, like medical records, because the security is really complex. Trying to think of some of the other ones. There's people that have built like ERPs, systems on top of Force.com. But really, if you really understand a vertical, so like I really know e-commerce, we've basically adapted Force.com to work for an e-commerce business, right? So out of the box, it's not going to necessarily work for, a pet supply company, right? But they can modify it to work for their business. Well, so Cloud Conversion is my company, and we basically built some of these products that I showed you on this Force.com platform. And so our customers would never use Salesforce without what we basically have added value on top of what Salesforce offers. So we address a pretty big pain around like e-commerce, and there's like we kind of filled some gaps with that eBay and PayPal and like drop shipping. Like most people don't really even have a system to manage it because nobody really has gone after that market at all. I mean, the great thing about this too is like, I mean, you don't really have to go raise a bunch of money to try to start a software company. You can actually you can go sign up for a free account. Like I bootstrapped the company. I mean, I was charging $250 an hour for consulting while I was building out my product on top of Salesforce. And so it's nice not having to give away the farm to build a workflow engine that that your customers are going to want. But I'll leave you with one last analogy. So I kind of think about it like you say you want to go start a company, you want to build a product, and you get to like it's an analogy to like building a boat or going sailing, right? So you get to like the edge of the water, and like with Amazon Web Services, there's like all the things that you could use to build a boat, whereas Salesforce, they actually give you this like really amazing architecture, and I can actually get on the water like right now and like start but I can basically build my boat as I go, whereas like you're not even able to like start sailing for like months because you can't really you just have the pieces, right? So you're much higher up the stack with Salesforce. Like they provide you a lot of functionality that you're probably never going to try to build yourself. Cool. Yep.
You have to subscribe to Salesforce? Is that how it works?
No, you don't. So so it's up to you. If we have a lot of customers that come to us and they said, we've been using Salesforce for 3 years. We want to use your application. Be like, great, we can install it into your Salesforce account. It's just a managed package. But the majority of our customers, they're like, we were at some event and we heard that you have this amazing application, and be like, yeah, great. So here's a 30-day free trial of Cloud Conversion, which basically runs completely on the Force.com platform. And we basically OEM the platform. So we give you a 30-day trial, or Salesforce gives you a 30-day trial of our application. And then at the end of 30 days, you can decide whether or not you want to go with it. And if you do, you basically sign a contract with us, and then we just sign a contract with Salesforce for your licenses. So it's a really good model. I mean, you can also be a referral partner, and we've been a referral partner of Salesforce for a long time, and you can get 10% like referral revenue, but I would much rather get a much bigger piece of the pie in terms of doing the OEM on the Force.com.
Okay. Got it.
Any other questions or? Quinton, do you have any questions? Yeah. Cool. Well, I'll be around too if you think of anything, or if you want to grab my business card or whatever.